The weather was chilly, with the wind howling through the crowded streets. On the sidewalk, an elderly woman sat huddled, her worn-out coat unable to shield her from the cold. Her eyes were tired, silently following the hurried flow of people passing by, none of whom turned back to look at her. Everyone was busy with their own lives, no one noticed her, a tiny figure in the vast city. Amidst the rush of people, a young man suddenly stopped. He looked at the old woman, his gaze thoughtful. Without hesitation, he walked over. The old woman was over 70, her hair gray and tangled in the cold wind. For more than 10 years, she had lived on the streets, with no home and no family. Every day, she sat at the familiar street corner, her dim eyes watching the bustling crowd, hoping someone would stop and offer her a little warmth. But the streets remained chaotic. People passed by, rushing with their work, their personal concerns. No one looked at her for more than a second. No one stopped. She was just a lonely figure in the vast city. Amid the hustle, the young man suddenly stopped. He bent down and gently asked, "Grandmother, how long has it been since you had a full meal?" The old woman looked up, her tired eyes reflecting sorrow. Her voice trembled as she replied, "3 days, my child." Hearing this, the young man immediately ran to a nearby shop and bought a hot meal. He returned, placed the meal in her hands, and sat down beside her. In the dim streetlight, the two strangers shared a warm meal in the cold city. The young man sat quietly next to her, listening intently. The old woman slowly began to tell the story of her life, the happy days spent with family, and then everything collapsed after a tragic event. She lost her home and her loved ones, and for the past 10 years, she had struggled to survive in the cold streets. Not only did the young man give her a meal, but he also showed genuine care. He asked her questions, comforted her, and listened to everything she said. In a world so indifferent, his kindness was like a small flame, warming her lonely, aged heart. After a while, the young man decided to take the old woman to his home so she could have a temporary safe place. He gently invited her, "Grandmother, come home and rest." The old woman looked at him, her eyes filled with sadness, hesitated for a moment, then lit up with hope. How long had it been since she had a place to call home? The young man helped her onto his car and drove her to his warm home. Upon entering, the old woman felt the warmth and safety around her. For the first time in many years, a bright, radiant smile appeared on her face. A close-up of the old woman's smile, the first joyful smile in years, her eyes shining with happiness and gratitude. She sat in the warm room, looking out the window, feeling a peace she had never known. The young man stood up, preparing to leave. He looked at her one last time and smiled gently. He knew he had done something good, but his journey was far from over. Before leaving, he left behind a simple but profound message. Kindness is always present, as long as you are willing to give it.